Hello everyone, thank you again for joining me with another episode of Twisted Tree Frog. Today we are going to be making a set of nesting bowls. They are hand built. The mold set comes with 4 or 5 molds, I can't quite remember. And this is what they look like. There is another set that is a round bottom as well. I really like those. I enjoy making bowls. I love having bowls. Everybody seems to really like the nesting bowl sets. So we will be making one together, and then you will be able to make as many as you want. If you don't have plaster molds like this that are nesting bowl sets, don't let that stop you. You can find different sizes of bowls at the dollar store type places and make your own molds. So don't let this stop you. Let's get going and make some bowls. We will be starting with a slab that was rolled on a slab roller to 3/8 of an inch thick. We will compress the slab so that it is structurally more sound. That will help us with cracking and warping issues. If you want to see how I roll my slabs on the slab roller, how I prep them, there is another video that I will link below. It is a matter of how you roll your slab before you put it in the slab roller. You still get slightly rounded edges, but it's much more rectangular rather than just a large oval if you just rolled it straight from a piece of clay without doing any prep work. So we'll compress both sides of this. And as we compress, it is going to make the slab a little bit thinner. When we're dealing with serving pieces, bakeware, larger bowls, platters, you really do want your clay a little thicker on the rims. If it's not thick, it is more prone to chipping. We'll use a slab mat, or it's rolled on a slab mat. We'll use a wear board to flip this over. And we will compress the other side as well. If you roll with canvas, you will be taking the canvas marks off. But even if you roll with something like a slab mat or with plastic, whatever your choice is, you still have to compress, even if there are no marks on your slab of clay. Now that our clay is compressed, I today am going to do texture on the outside of this bowl. I'm going to use just a mat that I picked up on either Temu or at a dollar store, Dollarama. So what we are going to do, is we're going to put this mat on the outside, and then I'll roll it in. I also want to do some accents on the inside. So we'll put this mat down and then we will roll the texture in. When I roll the texture, I prefer to use a pony roller, and you start rolling from the inside out. That will get your texture mat nice and flat. So when you get it all secure, you can roll it in nice and firm. Now this mat should be about the perfect size for the bowl that I want to use. I think that will be ideal. So what we are going to do, we're going to cut this off roughly because I have to flip it over for a moment. And all I really am concerned about is a rough size because I want to put a stamp in the middle of the bowl. I'm not going for perfection. If we wanted perfection, we would buy something that was made by a machine. So we'll be doing a few flips here. This also lets us release that slab of clay. And we can clean it up a little more. That isn't a perfect texture board that I'm using. Or a perfect wear board, I should say. And we have our mat on the back side still, so I'm not worried about losing any of that texture. Then I have these little, I call them texture rings. I will link those down below. And all I want is something really neat on the bottom of the inside of the bowl. So I'm going to try to center that as much as possible. And we still have the texture mat on the other side, so I'm not worried about losing any of our texture. There we go, just a little accent. It'll just add another place for the glaze to do really cool things. So now we are going to flip this onto our plaster form. I use both plaster and wood forms in the studio. I've never had an issue with plaster blisters, but I am mindful not to mix plaster in the same place that I do clay. So now this is going to be a little tricky. I want to get that in the center as well as I could. I think it flopped pretty well there. And I'm going to remove the mat because the mat will not make it easy. So to remove our mat, we have to be very careful at the beginning because it will pull up on the clay. Once you get it started, it will come off quite easily. So just work your way around. I should name myself the Clumsy Potter. There we go. I think that is going to look quite stunning. So now what we want to do is we're going to be pulling that texture and the clay toward the bowl. We do not want to push down. This is an exercise in patience, so put some calming music on if you need. It's not something you can rush, otherwise you will get pleats and wrinkles in your clay. So just keep going around, and I'm just gently pulling that clay toward the form. So now I'm just going to use this part of my hand to open up the little creases or ripples and start to work that in by lifting it and pulling it towards the form. And what we're doing this for is so that we'll be able to cut off some of the excess clay, knowing where our border is so that we don't cut too much off. Now what I really like about these bowls is the organic nature of them. I'm just looking at this. See if I can get this to come just a little over. There we go. So you can adjust it if you think things are out of center. When you try to center something that you can't see, like I did with that stamp on the inside, it is a little bit of a crapshoot because you don't know where it is for sure. Okay, at this point, to make it a little bit easier, I am going to cut some of this clay off, but way out on the outside of this bat. And I actually think I'm going to switch to a smaller bat. Sometimes a simple thing like that can go quite bad. There we go. It's just a little easier when that clay can actually, I can get my fingers into where the form is and lift that clay up. We still have a few waves in it. So we'll take a little bit more clay off. Trying to get that centered on the bat a little more. There we go. Okay, at this point, I am going to take it right off the bat. And I am just going to take my hand now and press it right down. And you can even curl it under just ever so slightly because we are going to trim it off. Now, I love these bowls because they look very organic, and I know some people use that term for something that didn't turn out quite right. But I like the way that the edges go wavy. So all I'm going to do here is come in and start trimming around the bowl. I'm going to try to keep my needle tool as flush as possible and not at an angle. So parallel running right along the edge of that mold. Now if you're concerned about plaster, don't use any of this clay that you trim off. So that's why it's quite nice to cut off all the other clay first. I'm not too concerned. I don't think I got much in there. Oops, there it went onto the floor. So at this point, there isn't a lot more we can do. I will take a barely wet sponge and just stick it underneath ever so slightly to soften that edge just a little bit. And that's it. Now it's a waiting game. Depending how dry your studio is and the temperature, that will determine how long it takes for your bowl to set up. The plaster molds set up quite a bit quicker than, a wood mold. So I would say probably in 2 to 3 hours, this will be ready to come off the form. Helps when you slide it around. So I will bring you back when it's ready to come off the form. One last thing though, almost forgot. Always put your maker's mark. And there we go. See you in a couple of hours. Okay, here we are a few hours later, and our bowl seems to be setting up really nicely. So we are going to get this onto a bat and do a little bit of edge cleanup on the rim. Oh, that didn't center too badly at all. Okay, we're just going to use this Mud Tools rasp sort of thing to shave down these edges. They're still quite wet, but I just want to take a little bit off so that we don't have that thin part on the inside. So now I'm just smoothing it out. It's still soft, but certainly firm enough to hold its shape. And the more we can do while it's soft, it's much easier. And then I'll do a little bit more when it's leather hard. So I am going to use a little water. The sponge, I'm going to do the frowny face with it and just go around this rim. There is not much water at all on this sponge, just enough that we can soften this rim a little bit. And then the rest of the cleanup will have to wait until it's leather hard. So get it a little wet, then use your fingers. I just love the organic rims on these. I love throwing nesting bowls too, but these just have so much interest because of the form and the fact that we can put texture on them. I do put texture on some of my thrown bowls, and I will do a video on that one day. Sometimes I even take these bowls and make the rims even more organic. So now I'm just supporting it on the outside and swiping this sponge along the rim on the inside. And there we go. That is about all we can do for right now. I will cover this with plastic and let it finish setting up. We want these to dry quite slowly. The little bits in here I am not going to worry about. They'll be easier to get out when it's dry. Well, there we have it. Beautiful bowl made. We've cleaned the edges up, nice and organic. Love that mat on this bowl. It's actually the first time I've used that one. It was at the bottom of the pile. And this is the one I did yesterday. It's almost set up now. It's a lot firmer, but it's been covered with plastic since yesterday. This one has the texture on the inside. I do alternate, and when I do a set, this set does have 5 molds in it, and I will do texture on the inside of a set mixed with texture on the outside. They don't all need to be the same. It adds a little bit more interest. Sometimes I even do texture on the inside and the outside. So we did the stamp on the inside, but sometimes I'll do full texture on the inside and outside. You can use stamps with rolling pins or vinyl mats. The combinations are endless. Just let your imagination go wild. Thank you for joining me on this little journey today. It's always a pleasure to have you along. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the comment section down below. As well, I will link in the description anything that I know where I purchased it or on my website. And as always, if you would like and subscribe, I really enjoy doing this, and I hope you enjoy the videos. And if you like and subscribe, it really does help with everything. There is a nasty algorithm, as we all know, and the more feedback we get from people, the better it is for the channel. And that means the more videos we can make. So thank you very much for coming along. I hope to see you next time. Have a great day. Go out there, get muddy, have fun making in the studio. Thank you again, and have a wonderful day.